Our speaker today is Dr. Eric Pearl. For many years, he had a very successful chiropractic practice in Los Angeles, and he might well have continued with that lucrative practice for the rest of his life. But a funny thing happened. Several years ago, he had some transdimensional experiences, that's what I'll call them. And after that, his chiropractic patients began to report apparently miraculous healings of all kinds of conditions simply by his holding his hands near them. So, as he continued to observe this situation, he shifted his practice, interesting word, shifted his practice, away from traditional chiropractic and toward this new modality for which he didn't even have a name. Well, several years have gone by, and this modality is now known as Reconnective Healing, and it's been taught to over 100,000 people worldwide. So we're deeply honored today that we have with us Dr. Eric Pearl to share his story, his insights, and his energy. Please welcome the Dr. Eric Pearl.
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me. And I hadn't realized that I was the Dr. Eric Pearl before. Transdimensional. I like that word. There's another word I like, which is transmodality. Reconnective healing is a transmodality. What brings that to my mind at the moment? Because it allows us to transcend technique and modality, which comes to me from what was said a little earlier, which is that we don't need an intermediary between us and God. Is there a between us and God? What is healing? Who or what are we? Where do things begin? Do they begin when we first notice them, or have they begun until they get to a point that allows us to notice them? There are so many things flying through my mind, points to discuss, points to talk about. They're not flying through my mind sequentially, because things don't fly through my mind sequentially. They're sort of tangential. There's this point over here, and this point over here, and this point over here, and if I get some of them out of my mouth, then maybe if I can recall them, I can sort of weave them together, or they weave themselves together for us, each in different ways that apply. The beginning. Whose beginning? Yesterday, I spoke at the ARE Center for the IANS group and a lot of the AR people. It's very interesting. We speak about near-death experiences and spiritual transformational experiences. We speak about the concept of death, but what is death? There's really no death the way we view it. As we view death, it's an end, yet death is a continuum. A continuum. We are here to continue doing what we are doing. And our very essence, as the candle, is light. So what we're doing is we're bringing light onto the planet. Where are we bringing it from? Where are we from? Where were we before? Where are we after? Where are we during? Where are we simultaneously? My mother died giving birth to me. I want to be careful with something, because at the time when she had that experience, which we would classically call death because of flatlining and all those things. Really, in what's termed the near-death experience, we understand there's no death at all. And many with the near-death experience wear that as a badge of making them special, except we don't realize that every one of us at some time or another has what someone might call a near-death experience, or to varying degrees, a spiritual transformational experience, whether it's for a moment, whether we're aware of it, whether it happens in our sleep state, whether it happens in our waking conscious state. For my mother, she was giving birth to me. I was still inside of her. She went through, I won't go into great detail, she heard motors, loud motors and engines shutting off, starting at her feet, moving up her body. She tried to get the doctor's attention, but she couldn't. She knew that if it got to her heart, that she would leave at least this earthly existence. It did get to her heart, and she was suddenly out of her body. She was passing through layers or levels of existence, of spirits, of souls, shall we say. We don't really have the verbiage here to describe accurately what the experience was. The first level of beings or souls that she passed through were those who had recently died and didn't realize what had happened. They felt that their work here was incomplete and they were still remaining around here. There was a second level. She doesn't recall that. There was a third level. Interestingly enough, some people say, well, don't talk about this third level, but I really think it's important. Not more or less important, but I think, let's look at things. The third level of beings was the only one that was uncomfortable to pass through. It was uncomfortable for the people who were on that level and uncomfortable for every one of us that passed through it. It was those who have done the one thing that we could do to not cheat, but to temporarily interrupt the overall plan, God's plan maybe. And that was the people who had taken their own lives, and they felt that they were delayed on that level for a period of time, but that they do move on. She passed through more levels and finally got to the uppermost, which was where she felt herself drifting down a lane, not walking, but drifting down a lane, what she feels that others consider to be the tunnel. As she was moving down the lane, she passed flowers of colors that she had never seen. She saw people, and suddenly we knew who everyone was without words. One look conveyed volumes of information. There was a bright light, a very bright light at the end. It was so bright she was afraid to look at it. She thought it might burn her eyes until she realized that there was nothing there physically to actually burn. And as she drifted in that direction, she became imbued with insights and secrets of the universe. The first insight she gained was that if there is only one thing, if there's only one thing that those who transcend this lifetime regret, it's that we who are left behind mourn them. Because we don't realize that where they are going and where they have returned to is really home and so beautiful, and it's just a very brief time until we are all together from their perspective. For us, it's a long time. She knew the secrets of the universe, why the earth was round, why the grass is blue, why the grass is green, why the grass is blue. That's good. It's some grass is blue, Kentucky bluegrass, right? Why the grass is green, why the sky is blue, why the earth is round, how we can't really blame God for anything, no matter how seemingly horrible of a travesty it is, because there's a reason for everything. And when we're there, we understand there's a reason for everything, and everything really does make perfect sense. She knew how we couldn't judge people according to their appearance, how ridiculous that is, how barbaric war is, that it's a temporary state of barbarism that humanity is moving through. We will progress beyond that. And then she found herself presented before this light. It was an all-welcoming light. There was no judgment. Her life was laid out before her, and although there was no judgment, she still knew it was a good life. Sounds like a contradiction, but there nothing is linear. So it's not a contradiction at all. For us to understand this to some level, it might be. And for all the struggling she did not to die, and she really struggled not to die during this process, she absolutely fell so in love with the place and the experience. All of her responsibilities seemed lifted, all of her fears were gone. Because fear can't exist in light, because fear is darkness, and darkness is an absence of light, and in that light there is no absence. And then suddenly she found herself being sent back, and as I said, for all the struggling she did not to die in the first place, now she didn't want to come back. But she was told she had to raise her son. And she found herself being sent back and programmed to forget all of the insights that she had, because those are not insights in the depth that we have them there, that we're to have here. And she struggled to hold on to them, and when she was on the gurney being pushed back afterwards, my father was walking next to her. And she said, "I now know the secrets of the universe. I'm going to tell you what they are, and I want you to write them down." And she did, and he didn't. So, depending on how surfacely we look at that, that could define a large part of my relationship with my father, feeling deprived of the secrets of the universe. We did have a rather contentious relationship, I would certainly say that. That wasn't the reason for it, but we did. Funny thing is, I now realize it shouldn't have been any other way. Because we're not here to be presented with the answers. If we were here for the answers, we wouldn't be here for the experience. The experience is for us to seek the answers, to study, to learn, to explore. What do we discover? Maybe one of the key things for us to discover here is that we are all one. This is tricky because we walk around in the illusion of appearing separate and distinct. We're taught to look for what makes us unique. What makes you special, Tommy? What makes you special, Susan? What's your unique skills? What we understand today through quantum physics is that we are all just fluctuations and vibrations and resonance, information. Density changes that distinguish the heart from the liver and the lungs, or you from your neighbor. But that when we gain one insight, one understanding, it resonates within every molecule, within every atom, within every subatomic particle. When we gain one insight, one understanding is picked up by just one proton within us. And then it's shared with every other proton within us, and every other proton within everyone else near us, and everyone else in the other part of the globe, and everyone else that may have walked this planet, past, present, and future, because we suddenly realize that there is no past, present, and future, that we are timeless beings, that everything is simultaneous. So what we perceive as past and what we perceive as future is really all happening at once. quantum physics will tell us that everyone who has ever walked the planet, we all are sharing subatomic particles from a part of them, whether we honor them or whether we feel that they were one of the most despicable people on the planet. We're all of everyone. And this continues. The fact is, we go ashes to ashes, dust to dust. We fertilize a tree, the tree grows an apple, and in the future someone else eats that apple. They become ashes to ashes, dust to dust, fertilize a tree. The tree grows something else, someone else eats that something else. We are continually moving around. But part of what we're here for is our innate curiosity to experience life, is what allows for each and every proton to grow and evolve, for us to grow and evolve. And we entwine, couple, link with every other proton in the universe. Every other proton in the universe. And therefore, our desire to grow and expand is what allows for the universe to grow and expand. Excuse me while I grow and expand. For one moment. I'll just pretend I'm not here. I'm not. But look, I'm back. I've grown and expanded. We don't need any intermediaries because we are all one. We are all one. Think of the sun. Each ray of the sun can be viewed as an individual ray of the sun, but holographically it contains the entire sun. So each ray of the sun is the sun. Maybe we are like those rays of the sun. Maybe we are each holographically total and full representations of God, or love, or the intelligence of the universe, or whatever words you choose. Holographically, it doesn't matter how many times you chop up a holograph, every portion of it contains the whole. And when we start to recognize this, we recognize that we're part of a bigger picture. You know, the concepts of life after death, or what you might think of as reincarnation, were taught a long time ago and were taken out of a lot of teachings in the major religions for reasons, basically, because the people in power felt that if we felt that we had an opportunity to do things again and again and again, we wouldn't pay so much attention to doing it right the first time. And I think they were not correct in that thought process. I think when we understand that we're part of a greater picture, it's more important that we invest in being the best that we can each and every moment, because it continues and expands outward. Freedom. We spoke about freedom in the bulletin today. Maybe it's time for us to step into this freedom of knowing who we are so we can create who and what we are. Jesus' teachings, as everyone's teachings, has many interpretations, and I think oftentimes they're used for different reasons. Some people in some extremes of religion will say only Jesus can heal. And yet, what was it that Jesus said? These things that I do, you shall do and more. Maybe it's time for us to recognize that not just the verbal teachings of Jesus, but the actual manifestations, what Jesus manifested in life for us to see, was manifested for us to also do at the very same level. Because we're here on earth to progress and evolve to become more. There is no death, we continue. There are no intermediaries needed between us and God, because if something were between us and God, then it would indicate that God and you were different. I see God in you. I see me in you. We're taught to look for distinctions. We have our t-shirts. Kiss me, I'm Jewish. Kiss me, I'm Irish. Kiss me, I'm Italian. Kiss me, I'm this. Kiss me, I'm that. Maybe it's time to get new t-shirts that say, kiss me, I'm you. Maybe it's time to recognize that when one child laughs in one part of the planet, 1,000 children laugh. When one child cries, it affects how many children? Healing. Can we see it in a larger perspective? Can we see that healing is not, as some of you have heard me say before, that healing is not just regaining the use of an arm or a leg, an organ in your body, your vision, your hearing, but that healing is our ongoing evolution, our life progress. Life progress not just in this limited four-dimensional manifestation of life, but our ongoing progression through our lifetimes, through our experiences, through our awareness. How many rocks do we have stopping us on our path? Do we wait for the rock to be pulled away? Do we move it ourselves? Is it difficult? Do we disappear the rock because we can, and more so because we know that it was never there in the first place? It was our perspective, it was our illusion. When these healings first started happening for me, I did not expect these. I didn't anticipate them. I wasn't studying energy healing or its techniques. I went home one night thinking I was a doctor, which I was, and still am. I came back another day and I was something else. My parents always told me I was something else, but this was not what they were thinking. But I'll tell you, that night was strange. A lamp next to my bed turned itself on and woke me up. I had that lamp for 10 years. It hadn't turned itself on before. I thought it was an electrical short, except my bedroom door, which was closed, was suddenly open. I thought maybe someone was in my house. I went looking. I did. Grabbed a knife, an old can of pepper spray, and a Doberman pinscher who was more nervous than me. We walked through the house, couldn't find anyone. I went back to sleep. That next day, as you heard, the healing started happening. I had two options. And I heard these options discussed here from the podium, interestingly enough, before I came up. I realized I was standing in front of something unknown, to me, totally unfamiliar, more unfamiliar than anything I'd ever known, and simultaneously more familiar than anything I'd ever known. And in that state of in that state of unfamiliarity, in the state of there's something that we don't know, the unknown, that seeming chaos, we have an option to find a center. We've heard the expression fear of the unknown, and often we choose fear. And then I heard discussed here today that there's also awe. which reminded me of a time when I was speaking at in Sfat in northern Israel, the center of Kabbalah, with the main Kabbalah rabbi, and I brought up something that had always just not set right with me. A lot of times we hear the phrase God-fearing. I'm a God-fearing Christian, and I thought, what kind of a God would want you to fear them? And so the conversation came up. And the head Kabbalah rabbi said to me, it's really sort of a mistranslation or a misselection of a word choice. I said, what do you mean? They said it originated from the word norah. Now, norah means terrible. It's a fear-based word. And the lowest translation of that is fear. And that's how we got God-fearing. But the highest translation of that is also what was mentioned today. Awe. Wonder. When we stand in the presence of our next step, for which may not be familiar with us, we have a choice to back away from it from fear, or to step into it from a state of awe and wonder and knowingness, the certainty of who we are inside in the seeming chaos. What does the world present to us? What was the world presenting to Jesus when the rock was moved away and he left? May have been different than when he entered. But there was no fear. Do we want to take our next steps? Here's our choice, our opportunity to step into the world from fear or from awe and wonder. We make this choice in the healing world all the time. You find very many people who are healing practitioners who are very busy protecting themselves. White flames, gold flames, purple flames, jewelry to keep away this, that, and the other. Every time we protect ourselves, we're in a consciousness of what? Fear. Does healing reside in fear, or does healing reside in love? Maybe it's about truth. Maybe healing is a return to the light that we are, as we saw with the candles. When you take one flame to light another flame, to light another flame, to ignite another flame, to ignite another flame, and another candle, another candle, another candle, you never see that flame cowering in fear or protecting itself. It just stands there in the perfection of its own beauty and its essence, its integrity. And by doing so, it inspires the next flame to ignite, and the next flame to ignite, and the next flame to ignite. Are we as light that flame? Is it our responsibility or opportunity to stand in the truth, the essence, the beauty of who and what we are, and inspire that light within each and every person with whom we interact? Maybe we vibrate at our truth, where anything not vibrating at truth vibrates out of the system. We return to the truth of who we are, the essence of who we are. We inspire that within everyone. This is what healing is. It's our evolution, it's our life progress, and suddenly we find, as we let go of the fears and the illusions that have been holding us back, our relationships evolve, our careers evolve. We turn around and we look, wow, my life is so different. But it's not. It's so accelerated because it's allowing us to embody the truth that we are. Passover, as was mentioned, is about freedom. It's time to make a choice. Do we want to come from fear, lack, limitation, the illusion of darkness, the illusion of separation, the need for control, ego, judgment? Or do we want to come from love, prosperity, light, oneness, unity, abundance, and freedom? The willingness to be the witness and the witnessed, the seer and the seen, the observer and the observed. In our own healing, since we can't help but share who we are with everyone with whom we interact, in every action and interaction, no matter seemingly how trite, how small, or how large, we are facilitating healings for others, and in the facilitation of healings for others, we are accessing our own healings, and as we access our own healings, we are able to facilitate yet even greater healings for others, and it's a cycle of infinity. I noticed the Seal of Solomon. One thing I always loved about the Seal of Solomon was when it was explained to me that the triangle pointing up is humanity reaching up to its divinity, and the triangle pointing down is divinity reaching down to embody us, to bring us up. Choices. Passover, Palm Sunday, Easter, and every day. Let's love ourselves and each other every day. Thank you.